All right, let's see where he's at. Hey,
Yo, hey.
hey. So,
Huh.
we're live on here. I
Yeah.
joined up already. I told these guys you were going to get in with us when you could. I'm sorry that you were having issues.
So, you know, I could tell everybody, whoever's here, um, we got a little bit of a special family here, of course, and the wife's down sleeping. Son had a complete, he's almost 8, had a complete blowout that required way more attention than just a regular. But he's still in diapers, that's how it works. So anyway, I was ready to go, and he required about maybe 20 or 30 minutes of my attention. So there you go, real life.
You know what? I understand completely.
Yeah.
I've been there. My kids are obviously a little bit older now, but they've been there too. Um, so we got a couple people on there. My video, for some reason, on Instagram is terrible. Yours looks good. I don't know what's going on. Uh, I don't know. Whatever.
Oh,
Listen, we're live on YouTube and Instagram.
all good.
Let's take a breath. How you feeling?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm glad to be sitting down, getting a little bit of time just to kind of chit chat with someone outside the four walls, and that's you for the evening.
Yeah. You know what? It's so hard. Lock City, my guy. It's so hard whenever we're working in the shop and you are all these great people joining, Steve. So you can't. What I would have told you earlier is I'm on live on Instagram and YouTube. This platform that I'm using allows me to see. I have it set up so they can read the comments on Instagram.
Yeah.
If anybody comments on here on YouTube, you should be able to see it. I got to set that up.
All right.
Um,
Let's see.
and but Tony's over here too. I missed that. Sorry, Tony. So you should be able to see it here. I'll just read if we have anything from Instagram. Hey, you guys just heard all the beginning stuff that I tell people when I start. So now you're all part of this secret. Um, so Chris from A Glimpse Inside, those of you who don't know, is an incredible maker. He's just a really nice dude too. If you guys have ever had the opportunity to meet him in person, I have met him a couple of
Yeah,
times.
a few
Uh,
times.
yeah, it's been great. I love.
Maker Camp was a kickoff when we met each other over there at the Avid booth, right?
Yeah,
Watching the plasma cutter. Yeah.
yeah. And then we talked about a bunch of stuff. And then last year at Workbench Con, I got to listen to you. And I forget the other guy's name right now, but he's reached out to me, and I've talked to him a couple of times about stuff too, because he was having some issues with stuff. So let's do this. What I always like to do to start off is, what's your origin story, right? Um,
Sure.
you
Origin story.
let
You
me
want?
do
I
it
mean,
again.
you want to
He
go
is
back
a
to
maker.
1980?
Yeah. Hold on. So everybody, he is a maker. He makes stuff. People buy stuff. He's incredible. The maker of the history of the maker of A Glimpse Inside and Go.
Okay. Well, my name's Chris. I was born in '80, so that puts me in the '40s. So
Little baby.
basically, I've always enjoyed making things with my hands. I've been in the makerspace professionally now for almost 5 years. Before that, I was making things with my hands too. I ran a commercial bakery for a company called Publix. So I always tell people I've made over 1 million loaves of bread in my life as well before even doing anything in wood. So running those commercial bakeries taught me a lot in terms of how I didn't want to sit in front of a desk. I didn't want to do anything basically where I was confined to a space. And so, it was an awesome learning experience. I say the biggest thing I learned from that experience was being in charge of a crew of 27 people when I was 26, and all of the other people were women. They were older than I was. That was a real fun experience. I mean that wholeheartedly. It was a challenging, fun experience. But anyway, moving forward, the long and the short of it was, um, like a lot of families, when you get married, you have kids. Every once in a while, you got some speed bumps, and we had a speed bump come up where my wife was unable to work anymore. She was a hairstylist for many years, a rock star hairstylist, and she wasn't able to work due to some complications with a long term illness that she's dealing with. So I thought, well, the pipe dream is for me to become the dual income, and I'll go on YouTube. This was the goal in 2017, and I'll post 2 maker style videos from the iPhone, editing on the iPhone, 2 a month for 5 years, and we'll see what happens. And so I was just a DIY channel in a 2 car garage. And so I was just throwing up ideas on how to organize things on a wall, preferably a French cleat if you could. And the channel gained 10,000 subs in the first year. It's
Wow.
funny, it took 5 months to get 1,000 subs. And then 6.5 or 7 more months to get 10,000. The next year, another 10. So we were at 20. The third year, I was at 30. So I was like, okay, slow but steady growth. We'll see what happens. I then decided to take the plunge and really crazily mess up some finances by cashing out a 401k, and people got all upset with me. But I saw the writing on the wall where, I was going to have to work from home one of these days.
Yeah.
We had 2 kids that were born. Both of them were on the spectrum, needed a lot of attention. And I don't want to dominate the conversation about that, but that's a reason. That's the origin story. And therefore, I was like, I'm going to go build a shop, an infrastructure of a business here in my home, in the back of my home. So now we have 4 sheds back here. I'm in one of them where I do all my shipping. The other one is the bigger one down there where I do all my manufacturing. But I built the shop. I sat on a bunch of footage for 6 months and then released it as a dream shop build. And that video took off at WorkbenchCon of 2020, right before COVID hit. That video got 1 million views in like a few months. And so it brought about 90,000 subs in. And I was like, whoa, this is fantastic. And I was like, okay, so here we go. I'm going to be a video creator. This is what I'm going to do. Channel was averaging 1.5 million views per month.
Wow.
And the channel was doing 6 figures. I'll just be honest with you. I was like, wow, I can do this. Retired from Publix. And 2 months later, everything went dry. All the popular videos went down. The viewership went from, like I said, 1.5 million to about 200,000 a month. And the AdSense, you can imagine, dropped about the same. So that was the genesis of maybe I'll come up with a cool storage design to get some views. And then I developed a little tool holder that looks like a wishbone. I put that online, and then luckily that video did okay overnight. And we woke up the next morning to $4,000 in sales of that one item. And I said, okay, this is a good pivot. We'll pivot to maybe making products and see how that works. So there is a caveat though. If you pivot a DIY channel that's doing well into a business, your viewership drops off.
Yeah.
I mean, big time, even worse than it was. So because now you're a business, and like, I don't want to subscribe to a business. What is that?
Right.
I say that wholeheartedly, but the 5% of the people that have stuck around and stayed with us are the ones that are putting food on our table right now. So I appreciate each and every one of those people. But yeah, there you go. Here I am doing this now, and it's been a fun, wild ride so far.
You know what? It's interesting. First of all, I had no idea that. Hey, Joe, I had no idea that you were at Publix, which is just the coolest thing.
23 years.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
That is crazy. So yeah, I mean,
and I couldn't have done it without it, Newman, because you just show up to work there every day. They give you stock. They give you stock, and I had a good amount to go ahead and be like feel okay to do it, and also to build this infrastructure. So it all worked out.
You have to have that. You have to have the background. You have to have, and not the background. The financial backing of some sort. You have to have some sort of nest egg to start.
Yeah, or put yourself at risk. I mean, you can do that too, but
but
which I did kind of.
Well, yeah, but I mean, at least you had something to start off on, right? So I think that's a huge thing to try and go for the jump of I'm going to do this all the time with nothing makes it really difficult, and so you did do it right. So let's talk about 2 things. First of all, I want to commiserate with you. You and I have a bit of an origin story of similarities there in that, first of all, my YouTube is not getting those types of views. It never has. But like all my stuff, this is what I'm building, and now I'm building stuff and selling it. It's a lot harder. And I've talked about this a couple of times, and people have heard me say that, it's difficult to do a video that you can't keep promoting your own stuff. So, and I know that that's one of the issues that you've probably had, right? So how do you deal with that?
Tough. Well, the idea, I mean, most of my promotion is off of YouTube. It's through email subscriptions, and it's Instagram too. The social media guides has chosen Instagram for you to be the most profitable or most popular. And I got fortunate that YouTube was that for me. You never know what's going to happen. I mean, there's no magic sauce. I mean, some people will tell you it's title and thumbnail, and you do it right, and you make a video that changes perspective every 2 seconds, and maybe you'll grab some people, and that does work. I mean, it does, but it's a lot of work, and it's tough to get that right. But the long and the short of it is promoting yourself on YouTube is very difficult because people aren't watching YouTube to just see what you're doing and giving yourself a pat on the back.
Right.
They're watching it for mainly entertainment purposes, something they've never seen, and maybe something, maybe the third and the very third distant thing is maybe something they're loyal to. And I find that if you look at like other companies, I'm nowhere near as successful as some of these bigger companies, but you know, I mean, the whole adage about Nike doesn't sell shoes; they sell the objective for you to be performing
Right.
better, right? Apple doesn't sell iPhones; they sell the future and ideas. So, like, you have to sell something that is a benefit to the user before you're telling people how cool what your thing is. It can't be like, I got this cool thing, I did this. It can't really be that. It has to be like, you know, are you struggling with this? Is time seem to waste away when you're doing this? Here's a better solution. And that, as you know, with the products you make, saves people time and effort.
Right.
And that's really that. If you can provide a benefit to someone, the loyalty or not doesn't matter. They're going to see right
Right.
through that, and they're going to be like, "Cool, I need
Yeah.
that."
Yeah, and I think that I agree with you. So let's talk about the second part of this. Is you started off, you had the 11,000 or $4,000. Yeah,
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 overnight.
overnight. So how did you go about meeting that demand? What is your, what is your setup then? What is your setup now?
So the setup then was okay. I guess I'll get some boxes and some tape, and I'll do everything from my laptop on USPS.com or something. I didn't know what to do. And I really reached out to social media. I said, I had some sales. What's the best way to do all this? Someone suggested an interface called Shippo, which a lot of us use. And I found it to be amazing. It was so fluid. And I was like, okay, this is great. You can basically import stores from Squarespace or Shopify or Etsy all into Shippo at once. And you see all those orders
Okay.
populate. So it's a one-stop shop to go ahead and, get people's addresses and information and all that good stuff. Well, at first I went all over the place. I was in my wood shop, of course, trying to figure this out. And it took me about 10 hours to pack up 9 orders. And I was like, this is not good. So I ended up stopping for a second. I left all the sales there for about 3 or 4 days. And I ended up building some cantilevered like countertops and shelving. And I ordered boxes from Uline or the Boxery or whatever these companies are. And I got a few supplies in, and then I was set. I said, okay, I can do this. And then I just went down the line. I packed things up. And during that time of me ordering boxes and building that stuff, I was cutting on the small CNC what was for order. So I would cut and lay those out. It was a bit of a bounce back and forth doing what I was doing. And eventually within 3 weeks, I met the demand. I say $4,000 in the first day. It ended up being about $8,800 in 4 days. So I was like, man, if I can do, $8,000 weeks, this would be amazing. Of course, it's not that way anymore. I mean, we have a decent. I mean, the sales on a bad month. I mean, we talk about that kind of stuff here.
People want to know this kind of information. Feel comfortable talking about.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with it because I got nothing to hide. On a bad month of sales, we're generating roughly, between like $7,000-8,000 in sales, and on my best month ever was around 30. But that was because my upside down sander mount got some attention during that month 2 years ago in June, and a lot of people said, you know what, we're sticking with the little guy.
So
that
we'll talk about that in a few moments because
yeah. It's a teaser.
Yeah, and as Vanessa said, entertainment is only a small part of watching. The knowledge and learning is a greater portion, right? So here's where I'm there with you. Like, this is my biggest issue. Is shipping. Not like I use Pirate Ship now. It's a similar type of thing. I found them to be great. And maybe I should try Shippo, but Pirate Ship has worked out for me. My bigger problem is getting organized for the shipping. Like you said, it takes forever to pack up stuff to ship.
You have to separate it, man. Like, if you don't separate it, I mean, this whole building I'm in is basically dedicated. I mean, there's boxes there. You've got products there. You got an automated tape dispenser. You got my computer. It's a mess right now, but that's where I pack everything up. You have to just dedicate the space. And so if you can dedicate the space, which I have here, this is a 14 by 10 foot shed. And in it are 2 massive countertops and a storage area for boxes behind me. I used to carry like 20 different boxes. Now I carry like
Yeah.
5. So and a lot of times it's so crazy. I will look at my catalog of boxes and develop products around that. The need to ship them efficiently with what I
Yeah.
use and what I know is basically predicated upon what I'm going to be
So,
making. It's pretty crazy how
well,
that
so
works.
like my small bench top, my small bench topper is 20 inches long. So I bought boxes for 20 inches long. And then I came out with
Yeah.
my new big boy router, right? So I have the new big router and it's 24 inches. And I was like, son of a, why didn't I buy the box that would fit both of those? So now I have to have boxes for
Yeah,
one
'cause
and
it's
boxes
expensive.
for the other until that happens. But see,
Yeah.
my deal is, first of all, I'm not as busy as you are. I'm not as big as you are, but I also don't have a dedicated space for shipping. I do everything out of my dining room.
That's it.
So I have all the boxes that I
That's it.
need in the basement. I bring them upstairs. It's such a pain in the butt, man. It really is.
Yeah, that I mean, your issue. If you had a room or a dedicated shop like a space like this where you could go in and just knock them out and everything was at arm's reach, you would be done in a matter of hours.
It
Yeah.
does. It takes so long. Ryan said,
And even if you are organized, it
yeah,
takes a while.
it's just,
I'm sitting on 28
well,
orders right now that I have
you know,
to
and
fulfill.
let's
I'm like,
talk about that. Ryan says always separate the space for different purposes in manufacturing when you can, right? I think most of us do that
Yep.
in a smaller shop area. I've got my laser and CNC over there. I've got my bench and my sanding station over here, table.
100%.
But let's talk about a second, because one of the things that always impresses me, and you've talked about this several times, is your work packing up items. Like I've heard you talk about taking extra care to pack, right? So
Mhm.
yeah,
Big time.
and I agree with you. Like I think about your words and the things that you've said often when I'm packing up stuff. So I'd love for you to talk about that for a moment, if you don't mind.
Sure. Look no further than the success of a YouTube channel called Unbox Therapy. There's a reason why the unboxing is satisfying. It could be linked to Christmas Day or whatever else. It's an emotional thing to unbox something that's really cool, or the experience is pretty nice. Now, my products are not packed up on the way of like, the tech industry. That's just
Yeah.
insane. But what I have noticed, the feedback I've gotten is that every box that comes out of my shop has no wiggle room at all. You can't shake it. You don't even know what's in it. So whether it's a machine that makes air pillows or I use craft paper for everything, craft paper boxes, craft paper envelopes, craft paper. I got craft paper. Ready for this? I got craft paper bubble wrap.
I think I remember you talking about that.
And it kind of creates kind of a cool experience. People open up and go, whoa, and here's the thing. You don't have a first time customer. You get one chance to have this box show up and have the tape be
Yeah.
level and have the label you've put on there be square. Oh wow, that instantly tells the person this guy gives a shit for a minute. Like, okay. So they open it up and then they go, oh, a human being did this and they absolutely cared about it. Right?
Yeah.
You can't lose that opportunity to gain someone's trust that way, as far as
So
I'm
one of
concerned.
the things that I hate, I got to read this for a second. Vanessa said Amazon sometimes glitches on its shipping size boxes versus the product inside. We've all seen that, right? You
Oh
huge
God,
box
it's
with this
awful.
tiny little thing. So my
Yep.
problem,
With one piece of
yes,
paper
yeah.
thrown in there.
So this is what kills me, and it's very difficult for me because, you and I have talked about this. I am not making all of my products anymore because I as a full-time teacher could not do both
Right.
of those. It
couldn't do
was
it.
impossible. It was I literally made myself sick the first time it went big and tried to do it.
I remember we were talking back and forth. You're like, I don't know what I'm
No,
going to do. I'm going to die.
I was like, I was
remember
physically sick because you want to get these things out and it's impossible. And so you focus and then everything else falls inside. Anyway, so the company is, that company is doing some of my stuff and I'm doing others. And I got a message from someone
Right.
the other day and they said, they were giving me some ways to improve. And one of the things they said is, I got this one thing from you. It's beautifully wrapped. The components were all put together. And then the other one I got from you, the pieces look like they were just thrown in the box. It's like, man, you can tell which one they did and which one I did. And it's so hard because I don't have control over that.
You don't. I've struggled with, do I give up some control or not as well. Um, I can't do it right now. I just, no one's going to take care of it
Right.
like you do. That's just kind of how it is. I mean, it would have to be built in house for that to happen. You would have to set the culture and the standard, being the CEO of a bigger thing other
Right.
than yourself. That's how you would do it. I mean, you can't ask another, third party, whatever, to have that kind of care and quality, because you're not going to go in there and do the
Right.
training. That's just not going to
Well,
happen.
they're in another state.
But yeah, true. And I've ordered from plenty of other makers in this community, and it is. I mean, I would say 100% of the time the boxes rattle, things look like they're thrown in there on people I love and trust. I'm like, what in the world, man? This is so not like you.
So I want to throw another. I had Kevin from Wood Grain Junkie on here a couple weeks ago, and he sent me some stuff, some beautiful stuff, and it was the same thing, dude. It was packed so well. Everything was really stacked neatly. He has a beautiful box for it. I was impressed by the packaging.
Yeah.
I was like, this is great.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm actually Kevin. He does beautiful stuff. I think he's using 3/8 inch acrylic to make plates and whatnot. I've seen it all. I mean, truth be told, I'm actually a wholesaler for router plates as well for a mysterious person, but it's not him. But so, which is interesting. The thing about that is that here's what that does. Here's what that competition does for me anyway. It makes us, if we objectively look at things like that, it makes us all better. It makes us all better. I'm sure we're going to get down the route of taking ideas from one place and making them your own, even though they're not yours. I'm weird about this because there's room for everybody, as far as I'm concerned. And here's the thing. Here's why I say that. If we're going to dive in this real quick, or we want to wait. I'm not going to tell the story yet, but I'll tell you my thoughts about
Let's go for it. Let's start at the beginning. I think that, again, because you and I had similar, yours is much more focused than mine, right? So let's go into what happened.
Yeah. So for years, all of us have had random orbit sanders that we've clamped to a table or into a vise, turned upside down, and used two-handed. But forever, nobody had ever come up with anything that made that easy. It just kind of made it happen. We just kind of made it happenstance happen. I thought, okay, I'm going to develop something just for me. I was just doing it for me. I wasn't even doing it for a product. Eventually, I came to a design where I was like, that's cool. I think people would want this. My dad came over. He's like, son, I think you're onto something. So I kind of this wing-nutted, kind of primitive version of it that I started selling. And it did really well. It did really well for about a year. I made different changes. I made the pieces a little bit bigger. They encapsulated a bit more varieties of sander. It's not a perfect product, I'll be honest with you, because it's so hard to get, 20 manufacturers' products that all look different to fit with one simple jig. It's tough. The American and Surf Prep and 3M, those really don't work that well. There's a modification you can do to it that makes it work, but it's tough. So the long and the short of it was, for over a year, I was the only person that had a product that did that on the market. Wasn't on Amazon, it wasn't anywhere. Then a company called Woodpeckers, which I still admire, respect, and forgive. They came out with a sand stand, which did the exact same thing, and it was made completely different. Theirs is locked in with some wing nuts, and it takes a while to put in. You can turn it 90 degrees. It has a little more functionality. Mine, you can mount easily, just clipping it down in and take it out and use it, put it back, and go back and forth. So the functionality of being upside down was the same. I simply made a video saying we had a good run, little buddy. And then I made a YouTube video about the story about this happening. And I bought the sand stand, and I compared the two on the channel, and I had nothing but good things to say about it. Nothing. I didn't bash them. I didn't say a word because I couldn't. It was so. My cousin happens to be a patent attorney of all things, so we had long conversations. He goes, even if you had a utility patent on this and a foundational patent on this, their design would have circumnavigated all that. Yes, and you can't. He told me one time. I asked him about patents for the first tool holders, and he goes, "You're not the first person to put a tool on the wall. Get out of here. Get out of my office." And so he's like, you're not the first person to put a sander upside down either. So it's going to be, you're going to have a tough
Right.
case. So, and I kind of knew that going in, but it made it easier to deal with,
Well,
right? To know that they did everything
I
the
think
right
that
way.
it's important too to point this out because I don't think enough people understand that the way a patent works is it's not like you come up with the. So the first thing I realized a while ago, and I don't know if you remember this, there used to be those people that would tell you that first of all, if you sent them like $200 and your design, they would return a patent to you, right? Or that you
Yeah, I've
could
heard that.
mail the original drawings to yourself, and that's considered a patent, right?
Yeah,
None of that worked.
right. First to market. I mean, there's all
Right.
kinds of stuff.
It doesn't matter because I had these conversations with the patent attorneys as well. The key thing is that if you patent something, I think it needs a 10% change from the original, and it's a different patent. Yeah.
Null and void. Yeah, the original is like whatever. And you could buy so a utility patent. If you think about this, you could buy a utility patent that grows outside of your original product, so it can't be changed 10. It can't be changed 20. Well, that's $30,000. Well, that's 50,000. That's 100,000. Eventually, you could pay so much money where your utility patent is so broad spectruming. It's a huge investment. I probably wouldn't have even made my money back yet if I had done
Yeah.
something like that. So, and at this stage, it's fine. It is what it is. But the good news about all that is that the the general consensus after that video is that people wanted to support us instead of
Right.
them. I did think it was very strange that a woodpecker's product was very similarly priced to my $75. It's now 79 because the price of goods go up, but they launched it at 80, and I was shocked. I'm like, that seems like a direct
Yeah.
hit. Like, we're gonna price this right at this guy's just because that's the only one on the
Yeah.
market. I
It,
don't
it
know. I still
it's
don't
tough.
know.
I mean, I'm glad it worked through. Uh,
Yeah.
Sorry, I was reading Vanessa's post. She had some cool things. She said the paper mill here held the tea bag paper patent in the 1930s. That's pretty crazy.
I see that.
They even had they
That's
even
fun.
had glimpse in the description. Someone said, "Check your kids at the door." They had glimpse in the description of your product, of their product.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, it was in their marketing emails. That if I was subscribed to their emails and I found that image, I found that file they sent over. They said, you get a glimpse into finally being able to access your sander with no
That's messed
hands.
up. That is messed up.
It was so crazy. I'm
I
like,
mean, I'm
really,
glad
dude?
yeah,
So,
it helped you make
and that's
sales.
why. Yeah, it's funny because like I don't really regret doing this, but I came out with some April Fool stuff called Peckerfest one time, which is like the combination of two high quality woodworking
Yeah.
companies, Woodpeckers and Festool. And so it was just a joke that I started a high end company called Peckerfest. I got so much feedback from that saying it was awesome and funny, and then like 1% of the people were like, "Well, I thought you were a family friendly man. I'm never going to talk to you again." We have senses of humor. But here's the thing: I came out with that, and then the Sandstand came out like 8 days later, and so people were like, "Oh, they act quick. They really stuck it to him." I'm like, "You don't do a year's worth of R&D in 8 days,
No.
buddy. It's just half as
Yeah.
fast."
Well, I mean, there's a lot, like you said, there's a lot of similarities, and I think the problem,
Yeah.
where I always have issue is not similarities. Like where people are going to come up with ideas. You've seen I don't know if you remember my upside down sander, right? It literally holds it upside down.
Yeah.
Right. So same idea.
Yeah.
What I have problems with are people or companies that just go, you know what, that's a great idea. I'm going to copy it and just make my own. And that's where I think the bigger issue
Right.
is. But it doesn't matter. Like we've already talked about, patents are useless. So you had a really good month that month. You made a lot of sales, right? So
It was crazy.
So let's talk about this. You said you've got 4 buildings, right? What are your different buildings?
Two for the business. A shop, the 30 by 20 foot shop that's 16 feet tall, which has no business being that tall. But people come in. I do quite a bit of local custom work, engraving, cutting boards, cutting parts, all that kind of stuff. So people come in, they go, "Oh, it's a lot smaller than I thought it was." I'm like, well, that's the TV adds 10 pounds, But the long and the short of it is, I have that shop. I have this shed over here, and it's about 100 feet away from my shop. And then in between these two buildings is a 10 by 10 pump house that has all my well and stuff. I actually did a video cladding those walls with waterproof
Okay.
plywood. And I got another video coming out where it's next month that I've developed a garden shed style garden tool organizer with that waterproof plywood on a French cleat, so you can even store them outside
Oh,
if you wanted
nice.
to. But it's a shelving system that's all weatherproof, and then garden tools. And so that's coming out next month. But then there's another building that is like this one that I'm in now. It's our household
Okay.
storage instead of getting like a
Yeah.
storage unit. It's just
Well,
household
that
storage.
makes sense. I mean, I had to. Sorry, I got distracted. I'm studying pizza peel build ideas now. The wood fired oven needs longer ones. I love that. I had to get a shed for my yard to put the rest of my garage stuff in to take over. And the funny thing is, people come into my shop all the time, and for the most part, most people walk in and go, "Oh, it's smaller than I thought." One time, I had somebody come in, actually from Maxiwa. They came up here and they went, "This is a lot bigger than it looks like in the videos." I was like,
Really, it's usually
yeah,
never that way.
yeah. So,
Yeah.
all right. So what are you running? You've got what size CNC and laser do you have now?
Oh, sure. Machinery. Yeah, I started with a very small Penguin was the brand. It was actually a Laguna
Okay.
Swift, essentially rebranded. And it was only like 42 by 26.
Okay.
So that's a pretty small CNC. I ran the business for almost 2 years
Well,
with that thing. For instance, I was cutting out 4 orbital sanders at a
yeah,
time. That
it's
was it.
so hard.
I mean, just the
Yeah.
bases, like not even the parts. And so I ended up upgrading to a 5x5 Avid, which I
Okay.
use now, where I can cut 18 orbital sander mounts
Yeah.
at once, which is great. And then I have a Laguna 150-watt laser that got me into laser cutting, where I kind of learned it and figured it out and learned how to triangulate the
Yeah.
mirrors,
Yeah.
and that whole process is absolutely maddening. If you can, I can see why people could absolutely never go back to it and then get frustrated if they don't persevere with it. I couldn't fail with it. I had to make it work because sometimes your success is really depending on whether you have a safety net or not. If you don't have a safety net, a lot of times you're really
Yeah.
successful. But the long and the short of it was I had to figure it out. So it took me a few months to really dial it in and get it going. And then I incorporated another laser because the production, I found that CNC to laser was about 80-20, 80 CNC, 20% laser. But as I started developing more products, that started becoming 50-50.
Okay.
And at this point, if you take away the orbital sander jig, most of my stuff is laser cut. And so I incorporated the big Nova 63 from
Okay.
Thunder, and that's my powerhouse that cuts wood all the
Yeah.
time. And I've converted the Laguna as acrylic only.
Interesting.
And so, because if you start cutting both mediums on the same laser, you kind of got a big mess inside the laser, especially if you're doing them at scale. What thickness does your laser CNC cut through? Well, that's it can cut through 3/4 of an inch, but you wouldn't want that. It's not desirable because you got to go so slow and so powerful. So I relegate only to 1/4 inch
Okay.
plywood because I can run through it quickly and it cuts cleanly and there's no worries of things sticking or whatever. So what you can do versus what you should do is a realization that a lot of people need to have with these machines. And you don't need these big, powerful machines. I mean, I could do this business with, like, say, Thunder's like little 60-watt, that goes in like someone's living room. I could totally make the same products with that machine.
Right.
It would just take longer, So don't let like when people come over and go, oh, well, I don't have all this stuff. I can't do this because I don't have all this stuff. Look, man, get a smaller laser and like a used Onefinity, and you'll be off to the races.
So it's funny
Like,
though. I mean, this is one of the things. So when I first started with my Onefinity, I had the small 32 by 32, and it was terrible because I could cut out basically 1.5 jig, at a time. And I was like, that's the other part of it is I can't do it like this if that's all I can cut out. Like I just can't get
Right.
enough done. So it was,
Yeah.
is Logan from the South. So
No, he's up in New
Yeah,
York.
well, I typed on the Instagram like, "Where's y'all's questions?" And Joe asked, "Is Logan from the South?" Um, what do you?
No, he just knows what's up, how to
Yeah,
talk. That's
do
all.
you do custom order acrylic leather pattern forms? Um, I
Ooh, I
yeah,
do
right,
now.
right. Wait, I do. Um, you know what?
Is that where you like you get like a book press and you press the acrylic and the negative space reveals a leather embossed? That's kind of cool.
So two things, going along with that, Vanessa, I really, anybody who makes stuff, I think most people you could reach out to and say, could you do this as a custom thing? People, and I have had people do it for me. And actually, some of the stuff that people have asked me to make for them, I've incorporated. And now I'm like, okay, this is a product I'm going to sell, or this is a change
Yeah,
I'm going to make.
yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, in terms of, but let me get to her question. The thickness of acrylic. I get to do cast acrylic, which is 1/4 inch or 1/8 inch. Um, it measures less than that, of course.
Yeah.
Like the 1/4 inch is guaranteed 0.2 to 0.22, but never at 0.25. So and then the 1/8 inch is pretty spot on too. I'm actually I'm actually making more out of 1/8 inch right now. I got a custom order of 50 signs that say it's actually I can't mention him yet, but he's a guy on YouTube. He's doing pretty well. That we're working together finally, which is an honor really, because
Yeah.
he's a powerhouse kind of dude. But you'll see that in the future. You stay close to the channel, and you'll see what I'm talking about. But it's really put me out of my comfort zone because I'm doing black and white
Okay.
acrylic, and it's building a sign with
Yeah.
layers that has a cool effect to it. And I've never done anything like that,
I
so
want
it's
I
been
want
kind
to
of
do
fun.
one of those. I have stuff for it. I'm supposed to be talking to somebody. Ryan says, Logan, tell Chris he better come to Maker Camp this year and come make some chopsticks.
Well, tell Ryan I'm trying to actually go to the Texas Woodworking Show and buy some pickles from his
Dude, I
competition.
want to go there. I want to go to that. Like,
I do too. I do too. I got a lot of friends there, and I got a lot of family there. I got family that lives in Austin, so
you got-
it'd be double. Be great.
all right. So let me ask you this. I might have missed it. What power is the laser you're using?
The Laguna's 150, the Thunder's
Okay.
130. I cannot tell the difference in terms of power and settings. They really act about the same. Lagunas seem to be on the ammeter. The Laguna seems to be running a little lower than it
Okay.
should, and the Thunder seems to be running a little higher
Nice.
than it should. So I want to say that it really, I feel like they're the same, but they're much more powerful than
I
most
have
people.
I have a 60 watt Mira 7 from Eon Laser. Aeon. Yeah, I love it. I'm learning from it.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, when you cut acrylic,
Mhm.
do you cut the 1/8 inch and the 1/4 inch? Do you cut it at the same power? Like, I'm finding that
No, I
essentially
treat it.
everything.
I'll put it this way. I cut my 1/4 inch plywood, which actually measures
Yeah,
0.26. It's like a little bit bigger. It's actually a 6 millimeter from Spain. So that one I run at 20 inches per minute. Is that what
Mhm.
it is, or is it mil? I can't remember what it is.
IPM.
Yeah, I run at 20 inches per minute, and I run that at 70% power, and that cuts through perfectly. The acrylic, the 1/4 inch acrylic, I would break the power down a little bit to about 65, and I would slow from 20. I would slow it to 10. So, and I would jack up the air compression. So a lot of times when I'm cutting acrylic, I have California Air tankless compressors hooked up to both
Okay.
lasers, and I'll jack that thing up to like 80 psi.
Yeah.
And you talk about the cleanest acrylic cut you've ever seen. It's like,
Yeah.
poof, it's
No.
great. But it's the air that does it.
So Joe asks, are yours CO2 lasers? Yeah, because as of yet, diodes are not that. They're up to 70, which is just to me weird to have a 70 watt
nice.
open body diode laser.
That's
Lock
overkill.
City Woodworks, whose name just went out of my head, even though I've talked to you, Tom. Can you attach a laser to the head of a shark? With the diode, you can. You can't do it with a CO2. Yeah, because with a CO2 laser, and that's really one of the things they don't talk about in the movies, is you would need to have a cooler and everything else attached to the shark as well. And you just can't trust them with the glass tube.
It's a triangulated a beam of plasma that has to be
Right.
focused perfectly. You can't. It needs its own environment. You can't. There's no way. I mean, I worry about when I have to move my laser just a little bit.
I
You
moved
know,
mine the other day, and now I think I need to go back and realign the. I need to realign the stuff.
it's. I know exactly how to do it, and I
It's just
hate doing
a
it.
thing.
I
It's
don't.
just a
It's
thing.
such a trial and error
Although
process. This
I'll tell
thing.
you this, now that we're totally off topic, we're gonna come back in a minute. I saw somebody on someone posted something the other day on one of the Facebook groups. They 3D printed a piece to go onto the laser head that will hold the target. So whenever you're doing all the triangulation and everything else, so it'll hold it where it's supposed to be, and you can just move it from piece to piece as opposed to the way I do it now. Doesn't matter. Let's come back to you because the really important stuff
Wow.
is talking about. I mean, it's not bad on the Aeon. Yes, change your plans for world domination. Do not use lasers on sharks. It's a terrible idea, honestly. So let's come back to this, right? So you've
Okay.
got your lasers, you've got your stuff set up. Say you decide to come up with a new product. Let's talk about this for a second. What is your way of thinking about this stuff and going forward with developing? Because and let's be realistic about this. Like we talked about earlier, woodpeckers, they've got a production and a design team. They've got people, and you and I have talked about this. They've got a team of people whose sole job is to go, you know what, I want to see this. Okay. And they go and different groups of them come together and develop it. You and I, when that happens, we're like, I got an idea.
We have an idea. We're the software engineer. They also have two individuals that scour social media for ideas. I didn't say that, but anyway. So because a lot of the smaller social media guys have some of the most brilliant ideas out there, and they are truly the invention is the necessity is the mother of
Yeah,
invention, right? And okay. So let's say I developed that first product because I thought it was something that I wanted
right,
for me. I wanted a storage solution that just didn't look like
right.
garbage. I wanted to have a little bit different aesthetic feel. Uh, and the week before, I was dropping off. My son and I were going to a park, and it was in an area that had a ton of Victorian homes. And I'm like, look at all these corbels up on these houses. This is amazing. This it was like from the 1800s. I'm like, that was handmade. Somebody took a spoke shave and made this thing perfectly.
Right.
You know, and I'm like, you can't get that look anymore. I was like, I should cut corbels on stuff on the CNC and see if it works. And I've used the line of a corbel for every product I've made henceforth. I've just stretched it in
Yeah.
different ways from a master file. I think that is such a cool look. There's a reason it's
Yeah.
timeless. There's a reason to look good then. There's a reason to look good now. So the tool holder came out of a necessity for me. And so going forward, it was always to solve a problem that I had. Every single product on my website is solving a problem that I needed something for, and that I thought it could be, a good idea for other people to maybe get involved and check it out for themselves. And then of course you compound on one idea. So like one tool holder turned into a hammer head, like this. I'll show you. Like this tool holder here that goes on a wall like this. I have decided to make this, which holds two tools
Okay.
at once, right? So it's kind of like, and then next week I've got a product called the Stag coming out, and it holds 4 drills, and when it's on the wall, it looks like a deer
Okay.
head. Okay, so I don't know if it's gonna work. It's one of those things I'm gonna try. I'll offer it to the patrons
Right.
first as like free prototypes for them, and then I'll put it on the market and we'll test it. And if it works, great. And if it doesn't, I just try something else. You can't be afraid to throw spaghetti at the wall ever. I have products that I made that sold well, had a life cycle of like 3 or 4 months, and I took them off the site just because everybody was kind of over it.
That's interesting. See,
You know?
I'm always I feel like I don't want to do that. I want to test and try, and I got these ideas. I'm like, I got to do this, but I got to do this, and this. So I actually sent out a
Yep.
couple ideas that I had to a couple different people just to get their feedback. And here's an interesting one. So I just came up with this, and this is
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
exciting. I did a cutting board. So it's for marking, drilling out the holes for handles, right? There's handles.
Oh yeah.
But the
Yeah.
first one I did, I had this longer piece on it. The second one, I used these and put it in place. And then the third one, this one, it slides. So now I've got markings on each side, so you can do quarter,
Yeah.
3/4 of an inch, and whatever. I'm going to do a better video on it soon, but it's the idea of I'm going to do it, but then I sent it out to someone else to get their feedback. And while they had it, I came up with another idea and talked to them. And it's interesting. I hadn't thought of it that way in terms of that's not your idea, Joe. I hadn't thought of it as in terms of the idea of throwing spaghetti at the wall, because I don't want to do that. But I sort of did do that, so I like the idea.
Dude, do it. I mean, for me, I love that adage, because that's kind of, it's a calculated risk. It's not really just willy-nilly just doing
Right?
crap, right? It's a excuse me. It's a calculated risk. I mean, you hear all these adages of, like, Mr. Beast posted 480 videos before one took off. Or Michael Jordan missed 9,000 shots,
Yeah.
or whatever. All this stuff to make people feel good about how they're not good at something. But the long and the short of it is that the moment you quit
Yeah.
trying at the feverish level that you once had is the moment you're going to die off. And so, I'll be real honest. I haven't come up with anything new in longer than I'm willing to admit. And a lot of factors go into play with that, whether they're inside the home or they're outside or whatever else.
There's a lot of pressure.
So always test
You
your
know
ideas.
what? I love the other thing that you said, though. Here's the idea in another cliche. First, Joe says, "I love the innovative and inventive talents you both exude." He loves you, but the saying is, it's
Thank you.
always in the last place you look, whatever you lost. And that's actually the same thing. If you think about it, though, it's
Did you just say that?
but think about it. Wait, right?
Okay.
Come back to your statement about Michael Jordan. He shot, 400. Mr. Beast did 488 videos before one hit. It's all the same idea, right? It's always in the last place you hit. The last design is always the best, because that's where you stop, unless you stop innovating, unless you keep innovating, which you do.
Yeah. So I'm gonna have to harken back to quote my wife on this one. I was a big proponent of this, like, it's always the last place
Yeah.
you look. And then she was like, "Did you just say that?" And I was like, "What do you mean? What's wrong with saying that?" And she goes, "It's always the last place you look, because once you find it, you
Yeah.
quit looking."
But that's like the Mr. Beast stuff, right? He hit
Yeah.
all these others until he made it big, because he figured out one of the things he did that made it big.
Right.
So
Yeah.
let's talk about this then. You started off as a content creator, became a manufacturer,
Mhm.
right? So how do you see those two? Obviously, there's some easy answers to this, but how do you see the two of those linking together?
So my content
Mhm.
creation, if I go back and look at my videos, I don't do as many as I should. I put out like 8 a year, which is horrible. But I've looked back on the success of when viewership is higher on those videos, and it's really on videos that I don't try. I know it sounds cliche too. So I made a piece of spitting art out of trash one time that I thought was going to do nothing, and it got 500,000 views in one day.
Yeah.
What? Okay, I did a project, a failure. I put concrete in these posts, and the post fell down, and I put a shade sail up, and that video did 250,000 views in like a week. And I don't know, there's no rhyme or reason to it. Then when I do a massive slab table that I'm so proud of, it tanks. And then when I tell people that the table I made didn't get paid for, the guy shafted me, that got 250,000 views really quickly. So you just never know. A lot of times, I've been very fortunate that even in my professional career before, I had to learn how to facilitate information to help people learn a trait or
Right.
learn a craft. So I trained a bunch of people that didn't know anything about the science of bread making, and then within 6 months they were on it. They knew it. They could probably make better products than I could. And so I've always had that kind of desire to teach people, and I did it in my previous career a
Yeah.
ton with hosting workshops. But now on YouTube, I think that because of my background, when I just facilitate information, it tends to strike a better chord than when I'm trying to build
Right.
something. Because I'm not the best craftsman. I'm not the best woodworker. I've never wanted to be a woodworker, honestly. I mean, woodworkers they complain too much. They just, oh my gosh, nothing's ever right. I mean, yeah, I'm a maker, or if I really hone in on my craft, then I'll consider myself a craftsman on certain things. But I have never once said I'm a woodworker. That's not what I do. Either way, I mean, I do work with wood, so I mean, I guess technically, but I do. I like facilitating information, and I like kind of showing. I don't know. I'm kind of rambling here, but
No,
you
I
get
get
it.
it. I get it. That's important. Like that's what it is about. And as Kitty said earlier, Vanessa said earlier, it's about teaching people. And that's when
Yeah.
my page changed, is when I started doing more education and less of, hey, this is something I made, and more of, this is how I made
Right.
this, right?
Well, education's your wheelhouse, dude. I mean, that should have been a no-brainer for you, but sometimes it's hard to see that.
Well, you know what? But I mean, I started on there. I didn't have the self confidence to do stuff on YouTube. I started posting pictures, and when
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
in one picture and then it's just a caption, it's hard to do education and stuff like that. Um, but that is, that's where really what people want is they want to learn from something. Although, again, coming back to your comment, so I don't know if you saw my video the other day of the my bandsaw art. Did you?
Oh yeah, the phallic
Yes.
image, the Peckerfest that you
Yes,
were
it
making.
was it was a cannon, I swear. I I mean,
Yeah. Where'd you see that? Did you
yeah,
come up with that?
yeah. I, so this 100%. I saw Pierre Luc doing these, and I've always seen those ones with the reindeer, and I'm
Yeah.
fascinated by it. Like these people just zip zap zoop, and I'm like, dude,
Snodgrass
yeah.
herself.
And I've always wanted to try one, and so I saw Pierre Luc doing these different types of animals, and I was like, oh, I thought you could only do reindeer. And so I was like, oh, what would be funny? A cannon looks sort of phallic, to use your term. And then I was like, I
With the
should tell
wheels.
him and have him do it. And then I was like, no, I got to do that. I have to do it.
It hit me like a ton of bricks. I thought it was gonna be something cool. I'm like, oh my god. All right. Did that video
Nope.
take off? No. Okay. Oh man. Well, it might get a rise later.
Yeah, it might shoot up. Again, it's one of those things. The ones that you think are going to do well, generally, they don't. And I was really not upset. I by no means, because it was fun. I was surprised because I thought for
It's
sure
great.
that would get a little bit more. Yeah, I thought it would get a little bit more love from it. Right, that's Kirsten's
Yeah.
term. Um,
Yeah. Well, your video had a payoff. It was funny at the end. That's kind of a trend where you watch a video and there's no result. You're like, what in the world? I just watched this
yeah.
for. It has millions of views and then the result isn't even in the video. I'm like, oh, that
What
makes me
I
even
should
so
have
crazy.
done, what I should have said, and Vanessa, I'm glad you saw it. Um, I really should have put at the end, send this to someone you would work with or would want to do woodwork with, something like that. That might have
Yeah,
been the call to action,
something.
but it doesn't matter. It was fun. It made me laugh. Like that was the goal. I know.
Yeah, it made all the people who
Yeah.
saw it laugh. Every one of them.
Yes. And that I think comes back to the other thing about social media that I've talked about plenty of times. It's got to have value to someone. Like you were just saying, you've watched videos to the end. At the end, you go, what was the point of that? At least this one, the point was ridiculousness, but there was that value.
Which can be a break from reality, which is what we all need from time to time. So yeah, it was definitely needed for sure.
So tell me this now that we're and I do want to make sure I tell everyone as we're hitting the 9 o'clock mark. Next week, I'm going to be on here with Ryan Cochrane Kayak. He is my guy, my ride or die. We're going to talk about all sorts of fun stuff. 2 weeks from then is
He's
yeah.
awesome, dude. We get together at Maker Camp. I've seen him there because he's
Yeah.
in Canada, of course. I'm in Florida. But that guy, we've had many conversations with him, and the fact that he was an Olympic kayaker is pretty crazy. He has some cool stories.
I have a really good April is a lot of great people. So I'm glad I could start off my 1st of April because I took off last week for my birthday. So let's say this. Oh my God, wait, I gotta tell you, this is the worst thing. I got a present today from Microjig, and I was like, Microjig, I don't know what they sent me. And I opened it, and there's a thing wrapped in bubble wrap and a letter, and I open it up. It says, "Happy belated birthday, the Microjig team." I opened it up. New broken bottle of whiskey. Yep.
Oh
It was
no,
wrapped beautifully, but there was no liquid in there, nothing.
man! I should teach him how to
I
pack.
was so upset with that. All right, so
That
it
sucks.
does. I'm so disappointed. So tell me this: where do you see yourself? Where would you like to be in 5 years?
In 5 years, that's difficult to say, but I'll give you this. Um, man, I'm just be honest. I don't. It's really contingent upon my family.
Yeah.
Okay, if I would love to have a standalone shop somewhere else. Actually, I will say this: I want to be out of Florida. I want to get out of Jacksonville, Florida. We need to live somewhere that has 4 seasons. We need somewhere that's not so hot all the time. My wife has a crazy condition where heat makes everything so much worse. So we would like to get somewhere in like the Tennessee, North Carolina border, something like that, maybe in the Appalachians or some sort, because I can work anywhere as long as I have the
Right.
infrastructure. When that's the case, kids might be a little older, but I would like to have a facility away from the home that was me at the epicenter of it, and manufacturing products that really add value to people still, but maybe have a bit more of a team and a bit more volume going on, and get it to something that could eventually be something that really is helpful for us in the future. I mean, it's helpful now, don't
Right.
get me wrong, but the idea of building a business, unfortunately, I'm probably not going to be able to, pass it off to children or anything like that. But and I've had talks of acquisition even now, which is crazy to me because we're not ready at all. But in the future, 5 years, build it bigger, and then maybe 5 years from there, talk about maybe partnering up with someone who could, have a bit more manufacturing heft to them to help get some ideas out. So, I mean, to be honest, that's what it is. I want to be involved with it as much as possible, but that's kind of the goal.
Well, I mean, first of all, I know a lot of people are leaving Florida. A lot of that is it. My cousins who were in Miami, they both built places in North Carolina because the insurance is just crazy.
Yeah, Tennessee's like nothing. Seriously, Tennessee's one of the most least expensive places to live in the
Yes,
country.
and Vanessa, I am in New York. We had snow as well. She said, Connecticut, if New England, we are getting snow tonight. Nobody wants snow right now. But I could totally see you getting that larger shop and working with someone and sort of doing an expanded version of what you're doing now, but doing the where you're making for other people. Because I think
Yeah, I have experience with it. Now I do one-offs I made a whole bunch of hooks for a retailer out in California recently. That's selling like home goods and yarns and all kinds of stuff, which has been really cool. So I'm actually going to I need to make more videos about the fact that I do this for other people around the country that I don't advertise for. It's just word of mouth. People send me a message.
Yeah.
We talk, we FaceTime, we come up with something, and then people are pretty happy with the stuff. So
yeah, you gotta.
I like the variety.
I think that's a good way to, in your case, make sure that you're always busy and you always have that coming in, so and that also helps you come up with ideas for your own stuff.
Oh, for sure. Oh, it did. It totally did. I made these hooks. Let me tell you this real quick. I made these hooks. I don't even have any in here. I made these hooks for this lady who owns a retail shop out in California, and they're long. They're real skinny, and they go out about 12 inches, and they hold these big tufts of kind of like high quality bespoke yarns that people knit with or crochet with. It was cool to see this really colorful display with my stuff behind it all. It totally predicated an idea. I make a bunch of brackets, right, for people to hold, like 2 brackets, a shelf. That's kind of like one of the bread and butter products we make. I'm like, why doesn't this bracket on the bottom end of it have a hook? What the heck? So I made a few of them, and I'm like, this is totally game breaking. It just allows the functionality that is always there, yet with a little added something underneath. And I'm like, okay.
That's cool.
So I've got a bunch of those already made, and those are coming out next week too. So
Well, that's cool. I can't wait to see them. You again, like I said before, you have great ideas. I love seeing the ideas. I'm impressed with everything you do.
I don't want to interrupt you again, but like you are always so nice about that kind of thing. Just so genuinely, like I can't even like it almost makes me blush. So I just want to say thanks, man. Like this, like the encouragement and how cool you think the stuff is. It's just it really hits home with me, and I appreciate it. If I haven't told you that before, I'm gonna tell you now for sure.
I appreciate that. I do. What I mean, listen, you're doing what you had this idea, you built out this business, and you've built the business exponentially, and you're doing it, and it's not easy by any means, and no one thinks it is. Right.
No, it's tough.
There's ups and downs.
I'll tell you the hardest part. We can even finish with this or whatever, but I've said this on other podcasts, but I truly believe it after learning this. When I was with Publix, when you're with a company that's doing well and you're doing well with them, you feel like you're the member of like an NFL team and you could still get on IR, but you could win the Super Bowl still. Right. The moment you step off and do this, you're now a PGA Tour golfer. You're no good unless your next swing is good.
Right.
If I get the yips and like start shanking the ball, and then all of a sudden I can't swing, I'm dead. There's no there's no income, there's no contract, there's no nothing. Right. So that's the scariest part. But the benefit is 2 months ago I had pneumonia. Guess what? I was able to completely detach and rest and take the medicines I needed to without someone over my shoulder going, "Are you not dedicated to us anymore? Get your ass to work." Right. And that in and of itself is worth its weight in gold. No one has to understand what's going on except me. And that is beyond belief one of the better things that I've ever gone through. And that's priceless. And it's hard to explain what it's like until you do it, because that only comes with the massive stress that you better keep swinging.
Right.
Those two things go hand in hand. It's a complete luxury to be able to call your own shots, but you are at the whim of your ability and the people liking still what you're doing. And so it's scary. It's scary. So just think about that if you have any aspirations to go into it. There's two sides of that coin, and they're both kind of crazy.
I've got a couple years, so I'll be doing it myself. My plan, if we talk about a 5-year plan, my 5-year plan is I'll be retiring from teaching.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to open a shop, and I'm going to do that for 5 years, 10 years. Miller Made. Hey, Miller Made. Oh, there he is. That's what I was talking about earlier. Miller Made Workshop. Just got over the 5-week. Vanessa, I'm glad you're feeling better.
Vanessa, I hear you. Oh my God, it was so bad.
Yeah,
so bad.
So as we're ending up, Chris, I really do appreciate you coming on. I appreciate you, especially with everything else happening, taking the time. And I appreciate everyone who's here tonight. Next week, it'll be Ryan. This is like a great month. I'm excited about this month.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
And I got to end with this. I have been feeling some anxiety about my own business and about stuff on social media and trying to fill my needs and everything else. And talking to you, it's the best I've felt in a while. So I appreciate that.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, let me just say, stuff that you come up with is really handy for people who are woodworkers, like who are already in the craft. I don't go that far into it. It's so like it's funny. Your ideas, I see your ideas. Like your upside down router table, and whatnot. Yeah. How you attach it? Just like I'm like, wow. So why didn't you have the ideas? Why didn't I think of that? That's you. And kudos to you, man. So keep at it. I think this kind of thing is what this space needs. Is people feeding off each other, taking inspiration from each other in a good way, not in a malicious way.
Yeah,
And-
in a good way. That's
Yeah.
what it comes down to.
For sure.
All right. Good night, everybody on Instagram. You don't go anywhere. I'm going to talk to you. Vanessa,
Yeah.
thank you. And Vanessa, I got to let you know, I wasn't actually on last week because it was my 52nd birthday. So you didn't miss anything last week.